Imagine neutralizing every social aggressor in the room without raising your voice or moving a muscle. This is the art of the tactical pause, a Stoic secret that transforms your reactive impulses into a calculated, freezing stillness. You aren't just being quiet. You are weaponizing silence to strip your antagonist of their power and protect your inner citadel. You are in a room with someone who is losing their mind. They are shouting, their veins are bulging, and they are hurling insults designed like heat-seeking missiles to hit your deepest insecurities. The script of human nature says you have two options: fight or flight. You either scream back to defend your ego, or you crumble and look away. But there is a third way, a way that doesn't just end the conflict, but utterly dismantles the opponent's reality. You do nothing. You say nothing. You simply look at them, not with anger, not with smugness, but with the clinical detachment of a scientist observing a frantic lab rat. In the next 90 seconds, that person will go from aggressive to confused to deeply, physically uncomfortable. By the end of this journey, you will realize that in every social conflict, the person who speaks most is usually the one who has already lost. Today, we are mastering selective silence. We are learning how the Stoics didn't just survive social chaos, they weaponized their stillness to become unshakable. We live in a volume economy. Social media, corporate culture, and modern dating all scream the same lie. The person with the quickest comeback is the winner. We praise the alpha who talks over others. We celebrate the savage reply. But there is a profound weakness in high-volume living. When you feel the need to respond instantly, you are admitting that the other person's words have power over your nervous system, disrupting the expected script. Every aggressor, whether it's a toxic boss, a manipulative partner, or a digital troll, operates on a script. Step 1. They provoke you. Step 2. You get defensive. Step 3. The conflict escalates, and your reaction validates their behavior. The moment you implement selective silence, you rip the script out of their hands. When you refuse to provide the expected reaction, their brain experiences a 404 error. They are leaning against a door that they expected to be locked, but you've opened it, and they've fallen flat on their face into the vacuum. There is a fundamental law in human psychology. Nature abhors a vacuum, and so does a nervous person. When two people are talking and a silence lasts longer than 4 seconds, the brain begins to panic. We call this the vacuum. The person with the lower level of emotional discipline will always be the first to try and fill it. If someone insults you and you remain silent for 6 seconds while maintaining soft eye contact, they will inevitably do one of 3 things. Backtrack. I didn't mean it like that. Over-explain. The reason I'm saying this is because... Project. Why aren't you saying anything? You're being weird. In all 3 scenarios, they have lost their footing. They are now reacting to your silence, rather than you reacting to their noise. You have moved from the defendant to the judge without saying a single word. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus famously said, "Men are disturbed not by things, but by the views which they take of them." In a social conflict, an insult is just a vibration of air. It is literally noise. If a dog barks at you in the street, you don't bark back to prove you're the superior species. You recognize it is a dog doing dog things, and you keep walking. Why do we treat human barking any differently? Think of your attention as currency. When you argue with someone, you are investing your energy into their argument. You are giving their words market value. If a person calls you incompetent and you spend 10 minutes explaining why you aren't. You have just agreed that their opinion is worth 10 minutes of your life. You have made their lie expensive. However, when you meet an insult with silence, you are setting the market value of their words to 0. You are signaling, your opinion is so irrelevant to my reality that it doesn't even warrant the calories required to move my tongue. This is the ultimate Stoic flex. It is the realization that your inner citadel, the fortress of your mind, has no doors that an external enemy can open. They can scream at the walls all day, but unless you lower the drawbridge of your reaction, they are eternally locked out. Before you can master silence, you have to understand why it feels like physical pain to stay quiet when you're attacked. Your brain has a security guard called the amygdala. When someone insults your character or threatens your status, the amygdala doesn't see a social conflict. It sees a saber-toothed tiger. It floods your system with cortisol and adrenaline. Your heart rate spikes. Your vision narrows. Your prefrontal cortex, the seat of logic and Stoic wisdom, effectively goes offline. This is the limbic hijack. In this state, your brain demands you speak. It wants you to bark back to prove you aren't prey. Marcus Aurelius didn't have a magical brain. He simply learned to treat that surge of adrenaline as a false alarm. When he says, discard your sense of injury, and the injury itself disappears, he is talking about the 90-second chemical window. If you can stay silent for just 90 seconds, the chemical flush dissipates. The tiger vanishes. You are left standing in a room with a noisy, fragile human being, while you have regained your throne. Let's talk about value theory. In economics, something is only worth what someone is willing to pay for it. In a social conflict, your reaction is the currency. If you get angry, you have paid them in power. If you cry or get defensive, you have paid them in validation. If you explain yourself, you have paid them in authority. Most people are reaction addicts. They poke and prod you because they are starving for a sense of significance. When they get a rise out of you, they feel like they have moved the world. They feel relevant. Stoicism teaches us to be the bad investment. When an antagonist hurls a vitriolic comment your way and you meet it with a blank, calm stare, you have effectively told them, your words are worthless. I am not buying. Imagine a beggar who demands $1,000 for a piece of gravel. You wouldn't get angry at him. You'd just walk past because the ask is absurd. When someone insults you, they are asking for $1,000 of your piece for a piece of gravel opinion. Selective silence is the ultimate act of financial wisdom for the soul. When two people argue, it's a duet. There's a rhythm. One pushes, the other pulls. It's a dance that sustains itself. But when you stop moving, when you become the still point, the other person is suddenly dancing alone. Have you ever seen someone try to have a one-sided argument? It is one of the most embarrassing spectacles in human nature. Without your reaction to bounce off of, the aggressor's energy has nowhere to go but back onto themselves. They shout. The silence absorbs the shout. They are left standing in the echo of their own ugliness. Suddenly, they aren't winning an argument. They are just a person screaming in a quiet room. They begin to see themselves through your eyes. They see their lack of control. They see their childishness. This is the moment the power dynamic flips. You haven't done anything to them. You have simply held up the mirror of silence, and they are terrified of what they see in the reflection. The Stoic avoids conflict not because they are nice, but because they are efficient. Zeno, the founder of Stoicism, taught that the goal of life is the smooth flow of existence. Conflict is a logjam in that flow. Most people spend their lives trying to dynamite the logjam by shouting. The Stoic simply realizes the logjam isn't part of the river. When you practice selective silence, you are categorizing the conflict as a non-event. The boss's unfair critique? A non-event. The passive-aggressive comment from a sibling? A non-event. The road rage from a stranger? A non-event. By refusing to give these things a name or a response, you prevent them from entering your inner citadel. They stay outside the walls in the social chaos, where they eventually starve to death for lack of attention. There is a specific type of silence that makes people tremble. It isn't the silence of the shy or the submissive. It is the silence of the apex. Think of a lion watching its prey. The lion doesn't growl, bark, or pace frantically. It is perfectly, terrifyingly still. This is what psychologists call high-status stillness. When someone attacks you, they expect you to leak energy. They expect your hands to fidget, your eyes to dart, or your voice to pitch higher. When you remain physically still, shoulders relaxed, breathing deep into your diaphragm, you signal to their subconscious that you are the predator and they are the noise. The observation shift. The moment you stop defending yourself, your brain undergoes a functional shift. You stop being a participant and start being an observer. Participant mode. How do I win this? What if they're right? I need to hit back. Observer mode. Interesting. Their left eyelid is twitching. They've used the word always 3 times. Their voice is cracking. They are terrified of losing control. When you observe someone while they are trying to hurt you, you strip them of their humanity and turn them into a data set. You are no longer in a fight. You are in a laboratory. And because you are the only one with the clipboard, you are the only one with the power. 8. Tactical silence as a psychological mirror. Have you ever noticed that when a room goes quiet, people start to get honest? Silence is a vacuum that pulls the truth out of people. When an aggressor finishes their opening statement, their insult or demand, and you provide no follow-up, you leave them hanging over a cliff. To save themselves from the fall of silence, they will keep talking. And this is where they fail. They will start to overcompensate. They realize they sounded too harsh, so they start to soften their stance. Contradict. In their rush to fill the void, they will let slip the real reason they are angry. Self-destruct. They will eventually say something so absurd that they realize, even without you saying a word, that they have lost the moral high ground. Let them dig their own grave. Your silence is the shovel. You don't need to find the perfect comeback when they are currently providing all the evidence needed to prove their own instability. Every social conflict is a transaction. The aggressor is looking for a payout of dopamine. They want to feel the rush of winning or the satisfaction of seeing you flinch. If you react with anger, you give them the gold medal. If you react with sadness, you give them the silver medal. But if you react with boredom, you give them nothing. Seneca, the great Stoic advisor to Nero, lived in a world where a wrong word could get you executed. He mastered the art of the dispassionate countenance. When you look at someone who is trying to provoke you with a look of mild, clinical boredom, as if you are watching a very long documentary about beige paint, you communicate the ultimate insult. You are not interesting enough to upset me. Anger implies that the other person is an equal. Silence implies they are a nuisance. In the hierarchy of social power, being a nuisance is a much lower position than being an enemy. Conflict requires friction. If you push a wall, the wall pushes back. That resistance is what creates the heat of the argument. But what happens if you push a shadow? You fall through it. You lose your balance. You feel foolish. By practicing selective silence, you become psychological shadow. 1. They throw a verbal punch. For example, you're the reason this project failed. 2. You offer no resistance. You simply look at them, wait 3 seconds, and let the air go cold. 3. The momentum carries them over the edge. Without the pushback from you, their own aggression makes them stumble. They are left looking frantic and unhinged, while you remain centered in your inner citadel. In music, the most powerful part of the symphony is the caesura, the total silence between notes. In social combat, your power lives in the beat. The 4-second rule is a cognitive bypass. When someone finishes a sentence, especially an aggressive one, there is a massive gravitational pull to answer immediately. Our social conditioning tells us that silence is awkward. Awkwardness is a sign that you are in control of the clock. Second one, direct your gaze. Not a glare, but a calm, steady look at the bridge of their nose. Second 2, breathe. Let the oxygen hit your brain. This tells your nervous system, we are safe. There is no tiger. Second 3, observe. Look at their eyes. Are they dilated? Are they looking for an exit? This is where you see their soul. Second 4, decide. Do you speak at all? Or has the silence already won the war? Marcus Aurelius famously wrote in his Meditations, "You always own the option of having no opinion." Most of what we say in a conflict is ego leakage. We want to prove we are smart, right, or powerful. But the Stoic knows that explanations are for the weak. The moment you start explaining your actions to an aggressor, you have handed them the gavel. You are now the defendant, and they are the judge. By using the 4-second delay, you filter out the trash your ego wants to say. The ego says, "That's not fair. I worked harder than anyone." The filter says, "Silence." The ego says, "You're the one who messed up the files, not me." The filter says, "Silence." After 4 seconds, the ego-driven impulse usually dies. What remains is the truth. And the truth is usually so simple it can be said in 5 words or less. When you finally do choose to speak after a period of selective silence, your words must be surgical. Think of conflict as a physical fight. The more you move and swing your arms, the more surface area you give your opponent to grab and pull you down. The more you talk, the more hooks you provide for them to continue the argument. The weak response. I'm sorry you feel that way, but I actually did my best, and if you look at the logs, you'll see that I was logged in until 10 p.m. Massive surface area. They can attack your best, your logs, or your 10 p.m. The Stoic response. I've heard you. What's the next step? 0 surface area. There is nothing to grab. The argument is dead. The power of the closed question. Use your silence to set up a 1-sentence finisher. Are you finished? Why are you telling me this? I'll consider what you've said. Then stop. Do not add a filler sentence to soften the blow. Let the short sentence sit in the air like a heavy stone. By offering no surface area, you force them to either walk away or look even more ridiculous by trying to restart a fire that has no wood. During your 4-second window, you are performing a vulnerability scan. Stoicism teaches us that all aggression is a form of pain. A person who is truly confident and at peace has no need to shout at you. Therefore, the person shouting is, by definition, suffering. When you use silence to observe them, you will see the cracks. The bully shouts because they are terrified of being seen as irrelevant. The passive aggressor Snipes because they are too cowardly for direct confrontation. The micromanager attacks because their self-worth is tied to a control they don't actually have. Once you see the insecurity, the conflict loses its sting. You cannot be angry at someone you pity. Your silence shifts from a shield to a mercy. You are giving them the space to regain their own dignity, if they are capable of it. In every social circle, whether a corporate office, a family, or a friend group, there is a predictable person. Most people are predictable because their triggers are known. If I poke you here, you yell. If I insult you there, you cry. But when you master selective silence, you become unpredictable. When you don't react, you create a mystery of character. People start to whisper, nothing gets to them, or they see things we don't. This isn't just about winning a fight, it's about building a brand of unshakable authority. In the ancient world, the Spartans were famous for this. They spoke in Laconian phrases, short, sharp, and rare. When King Philip of Macedon sent a long, threatening message saying, "If I invade Laconia, I will turn you out," the Spartans sent back a one-word reply, "If." That is the power of a legend built on silence. One word from a silent person carries more weight than 1,000 speeches from a chatterbox. The social ego is obsessed with having the last word. We think that if we get the final jab in, we've won the championship. But the Stoic knows that the last word is a trap for the insecure. The real victory is the final state. If you win the argument by shouting louder, but your heart is racing, your blood pressure is high, and you're bitter for the next 3 hours, you lost. The conflict stole your peace. If you lose the argument by staying silent, but you walk away with a calm heart, clear eyes, and the ability to focus on your work immediately, you won. You kept your peace. Stoicism is the art of protecting the asset. And the only asset you truly own is your mind. By refusing to engage in the mud wrestling of social conflict, you keep your clothes clean while the other person is covered in filth. There is a profound difference between a room that is quiet because it's empty, and a room that is quiet because a powerful person is listening. When you carry this stillness into your daily life, your presence begins to do the work that your words used to do. People will start to self-correct. They will think twice before bringing you gossip or drama because they know your silence won't feed it. Seek approval. Because you don't give away your energy easily, your rare nod or good becomes a high-value prize. Calm down. Your stillness is contagious. In a crisis, people look to the person who isn't screaming. The Stoics called this autarky, self-sufficiency. It is the realization that no human being on this planet has the power to ruin your day unless you give them the remote control to your emotions. Selective silence is the act of taking that remote control back and smashing it. You are no longer a player in the game of social dominance. You are the board. The pieces can move, they can fall, they can try to capture one another. But the board remains exactly where it is. As we close this masterclass, remember this: silence is a discipline, not a trick. It will be hard. The next time someone insults you, every fiber of your being will scream at you to defend yourself. Your ego will tell you that silence is weakness. Your pride will tell you that you're letting them win. In that moment, remember Marcus Aurelius. Remember the inner citadel. Wait the 4 seconds. Breathe. Observe the trembling insecurity of your attacker. And realize that by saying nothing, you have already said everything. You have shown them that you are a master of yourself and a master of the room. The Stoic path is simple, but it is not easy. Most will watch this and return to their reactive lives. Only a few will actually implement the 4-second rule tomorrow. If you are one of the few, comment the word unshakable below to signal your commitment. For more strategies on psychological resilience, join us at Stoic Mindshift. The Citadel is open. The world is loud. Be the silence